Oh, and back again, Tim Ostendorf, baritone and innkeeper, discussing all things, not necessarily Joan Sutherland today. That's talking all things Linda de Chamounix, or all things from O luce di quest'anima, the recitativo e cavatina from Linda de Chamounix by Donizetti. And we've done Joan Sutherland, Beverly Sills, Christina Deutekam. Those were 1959, 1968, 1969, and we skip a few years to all the way to 1991. Who could it be? I wonder. Could it be a Slovakian soprano? Who's Tim's favorite Slovakian? Well, I do like a good souvlaki every once in a while, you know? With the, I don't know. But Slovakian, really? Well, we all know it's Edita Gurova, but that's not who I'm going to play. Nope. It's Luba Orgonasova. Can you get that in there? That's right. And she was... Now, that's a very mature photo, but she was only 30. She's actually the youngest of the sopranos we'll be hearing. It's on the Naxos label, which is kind of a budget label, and they've had some wonderful recordings out there, and she's a fantastic soprano. I needed to do some research on her, too, because I don't know if she's still singing. There's a great video of, I think it's... is it Lucio Sillo by no, Mitridate by Mozart, and she does some ridiculously wonderful stuff on that, and that's a great DVD to seek out. But this is Luba Orgonasova, and what's interesting is she does she's got a kind of a bigger instrument. Well, a lot of these Sutherland, Deutekam, they've got kind of quote-unquote larger voices than you normally would hear in this somewhat lighter repertoire. But she also does, you know, Bellini and Donizetti, and she does, but she also does, for example, Puccini. She does the big aria from La Rondine. She does Turandot, not Turandot, but she does Liu's 2 arias. So it's an interesting mix, and because of that sort of Eastern European sort of steely sound, I think it goes quite well. But here's her version, Luba Orgonasova, a Slovakian soprano, recording from 1991, singing our aria for the day, from Linda de Chamounix. Tardi troppo, the recitative before the cavatina. A little slower than I like, but... Oh, right. 3 down, 3 to go. Oh. That takes talent. So she's got that sort of steely quality, and she starts off not quite as dreamy as Joan Sutherland, not quite as pissed off as Christina Deutekam, and she really lightens it when she says Il mio diletto Carlo, when she says my dear Carlo. Very melting, the way that meltingly melt. You know what I'm saying. wish she had diminuended a little bit much. It sounds a little on the edge, which is exciting and I like. But it's just a little frayed there towards the end, but still very exciting. Now this tempo I like. Very sprightly. You know, when I was looking at the score for Joan's version, she rearranged the words on there. I don't know if it's because of the high note, it's easier to sing in a different vowel, but it's funny because I thought maybe I heard it wrong, but Orgonasova does the same thing. I can't remember how she does it. Instead of la nostra sorte unita, our nostra sorte lot, united, unita, they do like la unita nostra sorte instead of unita, something like that. They rearrange it, which I think is very interesting. And like I said, I thought Sutherland, maybe her diction was too mushy and I didn't understand it, but she did indeed, because that's exactly what Luba did. And that's where Sills does that. I don't know where she came up with that. I love it, and obviously no one else does it. They make it a lot simpler, which is interesting. Did you hear that? That wonderful little retard that she did. I love. That was another one. She actually started on a trill, and then she kept going, but you thought that she actually might go higher. That's one of those ones where she didn't go as high as you thought she was going to go. Here we go. So those were a little more similar to the Sutherland variations on that particular verse. And it's interesting, who was it, Richard Dyer, the great reviewer from Boston, I think has been retired for a while. Oh, and remember when I talked about being in that Lowell House opera production of A Quiet Place a bazillion years ago? My world's colliding. I mentioned Richard Dyer. He was there at that performance, and he actually gave it a really good review, not mentioning me in particular, but because I was only in the first act, after I got out of makeup and costume, I went and sat down in the audience, and I believe Richard Dyer was either sitting next to me or very close. It was all very surreal. But he gave a good review to that performance. So turning it back around all to this bow tie. But anyway, I think, if I remember correctly, when he gave a review of this particular CD. He usually did reviews of live performances, but I could be completely making this up, but I thought he did a review of this CD when it came out, and he said something about how she was the only one that could take the place, or not take the place. But anyway, there was a Joan Sutherland reference, and one of the few people that had a similar type of voice that could encompass all these type of roles and do what she does, because she does Donizetti's Luce dell'Amore Big Mad Scene, and there was some reference to Sutherland. So anyway, I just think it's interesting that she's basically doing, quote-unquote, some of these Sutherland ornaments, for lack of a better term. ends it, I don't even know how to describe how she ends it. It's so, I don't want to say bizarre, but it's bizarre. And there's no real cadenza. It just comes out of nowhere, and suddenly she's... it's really cool because it's different than anybody else, but I don't know how I think about it. What? Huh? Where'd that come from? It's just like, and there's no cadenza or anything, and then she just does this like weird da 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 da, like slow trill thing. I don't even know how to describe it. And I mean, it just comes to such a complete halt. You expect this amazing cadenza, and it comes out of nowhere. It's just, I love it and I hate it all at the same time. So who's going to be next? Just 2 more sopranos to go. Who will they be? You'll have to stay tuned.